are not ready for this, because when the courtroom doors swung open and Denzel Washington walked in, baby, the air got sucked out of the room. People froze. The prosecution, silent. The jury, on edge. Even Diddy. That man looked like he saw a ghost. No press leaks, no TMZ sightings, no whispers in the hallway. Just out of nowhere, the bailiff dropped a bombshell. The prosecution calls Denzel Washington to the stand. What? People thought it was a joke. But there he was, the Denzel Washington, walking in like it was the final scene of his most iconic role. But this time, it was real life. No script, no cameras, just justice. He had no entourage, no stylist, no hype team, just a black suit, a crisp blue tie, and a folded paper in his hand, like a man with receipts. And when his eyes met Diddy's, whew, you could feel that ice-cold tension crack the air like glass. Diddy looked away immediately. Guilty much? Once sworn in, Denzel didn't waste time with theatrics. Nah, he sat still, so still. And then he spoke. Not dramatic, not loud. Just calm, too calm. "I'm not here because I want to be," he began. "I'm here because I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent." Chili, you could have heard a pin drop. He admitted he'd tried avoiding this for months, that he struggled with what to do. But what he was about to spill, he called it necessary. Then, boom, he said it. "I saw things, I heard things, and I stayed silent. I thought if I kept my head down, I'd be safe. That's how this industry works, but I can't do that anymore." And just like that, the courtroom leaned in, because what Denzel was about to reveal was not only unthinkable, it was out of this world, literally. Denzel began by taking everyone back to the early 2000s. Picture it. Hip-hop was merging with Hollywood, and Diddy, oh, he was the man in every VIP lounge, rubbing shoulders with movie directors, studio execs, and tech billionaires. At first, Denzel said it felt harmless, just flashy parties, big talk, but then the energy shifted. Diddy started saying weird stuff like, "You know how to stay on top, stop playing Earth's game." Denzel thought it was just poetic nonsense, but baby, it wasn't. It was a literal plan. And the whispers started to grow, not from blogs, not from tabloids, but from insiders, real people who had seen too much. They'd talk about Diddy's secret parties in hushed tones, not just wild events, but events that felt inhuman, like what was even happening behind those doors. One insider told Denzel, "He's not planning his next brand move. He's planning for the next planet." What? Huh. That's when Denzel started putting the pieces together. He wasn't dealing with a party boy. He was dealing with a man obsessed with escaping, not figuratively, physically, off this earth. And then came the retreat in 2020, somewhere in Nevada. High security, super hush-hush. 20 elites. No phones, no press, just money, fame, and secrets. That's where it happened. Diddy pulled Denzel aside and said, dead serious, "I'm done with this world. Too many cameras, too many rules. I'm working on something off grid." And then he opened his laptop. Denzel said what he saw made his stomach turn. It was a digital blueprint of a literal spacecraft, but it wasn't for research or exploration. It was a floating nightclub. He called it the Heaven Lounge. LED floors, velvet seating, soundproof chambers, a place for 10 hand-picked men chosen for their silence and loyalty to party above Earth. No lawsuits, no cameras, no laws. He said it like it was a brand. Denzel testified like he was franchising his freakoffs to space. Zero gravity, zero accountability. You thought that was wild? Strap in. Because according to Denzel, this wasn't just some fantasy in Diddy's head. It had money behind it, like real money, private investors, tech billionaires, people with names you only hear when stock markets crash or rockets launch. One name, redacted due to an ongoing federal investigation, was allegedly working with Diddy to acquire land near a South American launch site. They called it a celestial arts platform, but Denzel said that was just a cover-up. Behind the scenes, it was about disappearing, escaping. There was even simulation software, A mock-up of the capsule shown to Denzel directly by one of the tech backers. The inside looked like a trap. No windows, all artificial lights, plush couches, eerie ambiance, and the guest list? Baby, a disgraced NFL player, 2 music producers whose careers crashed after scandals, a social media influencer, an actor with a ruined rep, all people who had signed NDAs, all had reasons to disappear. They didn't even know the full plan. They thought it was just a luxury space retreat. But Diddy? He called it the no return run. That's when the phrase hit Denzel, sin floating in the stars. This wasn't a man looking to heal. This was a man looking to escape judgment by leaving the planet. And he almost did. The most chilling part? Denzel said this whole plan was already in motion. A whistleblower from inside the aerospace company came forward. Something didn't add up. The shuttle's specs weren't made for science. Soundproof insulation, LED mood lighting, high volume speaker systems, twilight mood ambiance. Yeah, that wasn't NASA approved stuff. That was for parties, VIP parties. Federal agents began a silent investigation. They traced Diddy's private jet landing near Suriname, right next to a hidden launch site. A March 21st launch was scheduled. Diddy had named it the Reawakening. Child. Federal agents moved in during a walkthrough rehearsal of the capsule. The thing was already stocked. Blackout curtains, exotic oils, oxygen tanks, imported stimulants, velvet seats, champagne, masked guests. It was a space-themed freak show. And when they arrested him, Diddy allegedly screamed, "You don't get to trap the future." That's not even the most horrifying part. After the courtroom had been flipped upside down by all that intergalactic madness, Denzel's tone changed. He looked down. He swallowed. Then he dropped the real bomb. "I'm not here just because of what he did to grown men. I'm here because of what I saw him do to his children." The gasp that erupted, deafening. He recalled a day in 2016 at Diddy's Beverly Hills estate. Denzel was invited under the guise of mentoring young black actors, but what he saw was not inspiration. It was a house of fear. He saw one of Diddy's sons, face puffy, clearly crying, being dragged upstairs by security. Minutes later, he heard glass breaking. Screaming, Diddy's voice roaring, "You'll learn discipline in this house, or you'll disappear like the rest." Denzel froze. Later, the boy whispered, "It's just how he shows love. It's normal." No. Denzel knew it wasn't. It was abuse, masked as control. He revealed how Diddy allegedly made his kids serve drinks at parties, escort guests, be silent, invisible. "They didn't grow," Denzel said. "They shrank." He begged Diddy to stop in 2018. Diddy replied, "You raise lions by throwing them to the wolves." Even the judge was shook, and here's where it got even deeper. Denzel said the machine wasn't just Diddy, it was the entire Hollywood system built to protect him. He talked about the cleanup teams, not just janitors. These were elite crews. They brought shredders, blacklight scanners, industrial cleaners. After every party, they erased evidence. He spoke of NDAs disguised as RSVP forms. People signed them thinking it was routine. But those papers? They silenced people, locked them into secrecy, and if you broke it, goodbye career. He remembered receiving an anonymous message in 2019. "You're the only one he respects. If you speak up, people will listen." He didn't. Not until now. And finally, he turned to Diddy, face to face. "You thought if you made it to space, you'd be untouchable. But you don't escape truth by leaving Earth. You just leave the people you destroyed behind." And with one final breath, he folded the paper he brought in, stood up, and walked away from the stand. No applause, just stunned silence. Because some moments don't need claps, they need truth. Denzel sat there, hands folded, eyes low. The courtroom was dead silent. You could feel the weight in the air. And then, in the softest, most cracked voice imaginable, he said, "I should have spoken up sooner." The words hit like thunder. This wasn't a performance. This was a confession. He wasn't looking for applause. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. This was raw shame. A man who had carried the burden of silence for years. He talked about the nights he couldn't sleep, the dreams, the regrets, the fear, all of it. He said he kept seeing it in his head. Those parties where no one had faces, only masks. And in the middle of all the madness, one of his kids, trapped, crying, begging, I told myself I needed more proof, but the truth? He paused, his voice cracking. I didn't want to put my family in danger. Oh, honey, that courtroom was stunning. One juror wiped away tears. Even the judge sat with his hand pressed to his lips. And then Denzel dropped something that made every neck hair stand up. My sons always told me they admired me because I stood tall when it mattered, but I failed them. I protected my career instead of protecting people. Let that sink in. Now Denzel turned his attention to the real horror, how Diddy stayed protected all these years. Because it wasn't just Diddy acting alone. It was a system, a dirty, well-oiled Hollywood machine. He described a network of silence, publicists, executives, influencers, lawyers, all on payroll, all on code, all making sure nothing ever got out. He said there were literal cleanup crews. I saw them. Not there to manage parties, there to erase them. Black light scanners, digital shredders, industrial scrubbers. It was like something out of a dystopian film, but real. He talked about an event in 2015, a private screening at Diddy's mansion. He accidentally wandered into a back room only to find a man packing up hard drives. When Denzel asked what he was doing, the man replied, "Just standard sweep, sir. Client privacy protocol." Later, Denzel learned those drives held secret footage, cameras placed all around the house, guests being recorded without their knowledge, blackmail gold. And then came the kicker. In 2018, Denzel got an email from a top studio exec, just 6 words. If the press gets the 3 file, we all go down with him. He deleted the email, but not the memory. Denzel revealed he was once handed a seemingly innocent RSVP form in 2011 at one of Diddy's charity events. Looked harmless, but buried in the fine print, any expression of discomfort at private functions would be considered a breach of agreement. So if you screamed, if you cried, if you dared say you didn't feel safe, you were suing yourself. Hundreds signed it, most didn't read it. Those who refused were blacklisted, their careers vanished overnight. You'd hear whispers, Denzel said, she broke the code. He talked to a journalist. Next thing you know, they're gone. And that, Denzel said, was what nearly followed Diddy into space. Now came the moment, the final reckoning, the confrontation. Denzel turned slowly, looked Diddy dead in the eyes, and said, "You thought if you made it to space, you'd be untouchable. But you don't escape truth by leaving the planet. You just leave behind the people you destroy." The whole courtroom couldn't move. And then he turned back to the jury, to the world. If Sean Combs had made it onto that shuttle, he would have disappeared into the stars. No charges, no justice, just more silence, more victims, and the world would have called it ambition. He let that hang in the air like smoke. He continued, "Some people will say this is too wild to believe, that a man like Diddy couldn't have done this, but those people didn't see what I saw, didn't hear what I heard." Then came the final gut punch. Denzel stared into the void and recalled a night years ago. Diddy was drunk at one of his infamous parties. He leaned in close to Denzel and slurred, "You know why I'll never get caught? Because I'm not of this world." And in that moment, the courtroom realized it wasn't ego, it was delusion. A man who truly believed he could outfly consequence. Denzel rose. He picked up that same folded paper he brought in, the one he never let go of, the one with all the truth he'd carried for years. "I came here today not to be a hero, but to end this madness, for the victims, for the children, for every voice that was silenced." And then he walked out of that courtroom. No applause, no sound, because some exits don't need music. They need silence. The kind of silence that says, the truth has finally been spoken.